The following video contains spoilers for a recent released piece of media. You have been warned.
Yeah, this movie won me over. Could somebody get me out this pile of plushies, please? Sony Pictures Animation are back again with their latest animated release, K-pop Demon Hunters. And the catch this time around is that once more, you have to watch this at home, because for some reason, Sony just don't seem all that interested in giving their movies, specifically the animated ones, proper theatrical releases. And I don't know why this is still the case, especially in a post-lockdown world. Maybe it's because of previous business deals? I have no idea. But at the rate that they're going, by the time we reach the next decade, the 2030s, Sony will have only put 3 animated movies in wide theaters, and that's a shame because the company's actually been on a very strong winning streak ever since Spider-Verse came out back in 2018. So why don't we take a look at the latest win, shall we? First, let's go into the backstory of the movie. The movie marks Maggie Kang's directorial debut with assistance by Chris Applehans, whom had also made his directorial debut doing another Sony animated feature film, Wish Dragon, back in 2021. Underrated movie, by the way. Really recommend it. It really deserves a lot more love. The movie started production about 7 years ago, so that would be round about when Sony finally realized people want to watch good animated movies. Kang described the movie as a love letter to K-pop and her Korean roots, which is where the Korean mythology inspiration comes from, and I'm going to just put my hands up, just like with K-pop. My knowledge on Korean mythology, be it South Korean or even North Korean, is essentially non-existent. That said, even though I know nothing about K-pop, her love for the genre, I can actually feel it through the entire movie. The best way to describe it is that the movie does feel like a 95-minute long animated music video. And I mean that in the best way, of course. And this is coming from someone that can really feel the passion behind the project, who doesn't know a single thing about K-pop, outside of Gangnam Style, and again, how very passionate the fanbase can be. Please don't hurt me, I'm still recovering from the Taylor Swift fans. Not to mention that a lot of the writing also has a very playful jab at just how obsessed fans can get about specific musicians.
Yo, I just got this!
Sick. That's not the worst spot a fan could get a tattoo. Nope. Nope. No, 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 nope, 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 no, nope, 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 nope. So, let's actually take a look into this animated movie and see if the quality extends not just from the very well-made soundtrack. Seriously, this thing has resonated so well. It's been at the top of the Spotify charts for over a month. That's actually kind of crazy. Let's see if that actually translates to an animated musical that's also good alone, because goodness knows we are really starved for good animated musical movies. Let's start with the plot. The movie wastes absolutely no time in immediately establishing its world and the lore behind it. Within the first 3 minutes alone, we're told about how the demon Guima, for centuries, have been sending demons to feast on human souls, and how for generations a trio of singers named Hunters, with their voices combined, create a seal called the Honmoon, that would send Guima's demons back to the hell from whence they came. And the Golden One would eventually seal Guima forever, another year. Admittedly, the movie is a little bit flaky on specifying that, especially since, well, how come only now is the Golden Honmoon actually coming out? And the movie has a pretty solid plot, but there are some things that it admittedly does leave open to questions, and even the directors and writers have even admitted that, oh yeah, there's a lot of room for us to, expand on this in a sequel. So, as long as it doesn't actually detract from the movie itself, for example, as long as someone's not doing something annoyingly stupid for the sake of, we gotta move the plot along, then I will let it slide. And also, if it's a case of something that's not properly established, then that is a problem with the plot, and no amount of sequel building will fix that. Because again, you are judging the movie as it is now. This movie isn't part of a bigger franchise, so let's take this step by step. Oh, one more thing too, if the characters' actions are, actual characterization, that's not a fault of the plot. Anyhow, this generation's set of hunters are Rumi, Mira, and Zoe, who make up the band Huntrix. Okay, Miss Kong, you can admit you're also a Winx Club fan. Come on, you got a bunch of villains that literally named the tricks. Come on, come on.
Hello, Ruby! She's pop star royalty. Her mom was a Sunlight sister, but passed away when she was an infant. But Celine raised her and built Huntrix around her.
Ah, the misadventures of a Nepo baby. Someone who was from California, so that explains her being crazy and pink emo tough girl. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's right.
After their recent live performance, Rumi is already set on rushing the very next release as soon as possible, as not only, again, will it seal the demons away, but she's been raised to believe that once Guima has been sealed for good, her markings will disappear too, because surprise, surprise, Rumi is half demon, and this mind frame has been brought to you from her guardian, Celine, who's absolutely brought this approach, this belief, based on John Buggerall. And to the movie's credit, it actually does call that out in a very healthy way. Like, one of the nice things with Rumi and even Celine's bond, even though Celine is only in the movie for about 2 scenes, is the fact that her entire thing is just based on a belief, and as we see later down the line, it's a very flawed one that actually isn't true. So, again, it actually ties to a nice character arc here about how someone may have good intentions, but their approach isn't good at all. And if anything, if it's based on a hunch, based on a lack of information, it could actually do a lot more harm. And we'll see that as we go more over the plot. Now, sure, Rumi's intentions are all good and whatnot. I mean, heck, you want to get rid of the Demon King once and for all very quickly. I don't blame you. Come on, everybody, let's get up torches and pitchforks. Let's start pushing him away. Unfortunately, she runs into another problem during a rehearsal for said new song that's supposed to seal the deal, where she suddenly starts losing her voice. Now, what I like about this plot element is the fact that the movie implies 2 things with regards to why she's losing her voice. On the one hand, it could be a side effect of her trying to shelter who she is, hiding her demon heritage, and also despising where it comes from. And also, on the other hand, the movie also supports the idea that because she's such a workaholic, she'd been pushing herself so much that she's basically damaged her voice. She is being forced to take a break. And I like that both sides are very valid interpretations, and in a way, it's actually a good read into the character. And I'm pretty sure that was intended. I don't think I'm reading too deep into this. Either that or the auto-tune in her throat isn't working. It happens sometimes.
Ooh, emotionally closed off?
Yes, yes!
She's also a workaholic, doesn't know how to relax.
I know how to relax.
I bet she refuses to go to the bathhouse with you.
Oh my gosh, yes!
Guima, under desperation, after so many centuries of failures, and also somehow out of touch after centuries and decades of how popular boy bands are and the influence that they have on the general public,
A demon boy band?
decides to take up an offer from one of these demons, a musician named Jinyu, who in exchange for his service to the Dark Lord wants to have his traumatic memories erased. And again, his plan? Create a popular K-boy pop band. Did I say K-boy?
Diabolical.
Labeling themselves as the Saja Boys, the group start to rise up in popularity with only one song. And admittedly, that song is very catchy, so you know what? Fair's fair. Discovering Rumi's mark, Junior realizes he could manipulate her into playing right into his hand, but the two end up forming a bond. And also there's a random crow and a random tiger here, and I suddenly want more plushies of them. Somebody help me! I can't breathe! Yep, definitely went overboard. Ah! The rest of the movie then jumps between the Huntrix coming up with their next track, while also fighting demons. Both Jinyu and Rumi start to question their beliefs, which, I mean, it happens. Hey, look, an attractive person will make you reconsider anything.
Join the pride. We need you.
Huh. So that's why this movie came out in June. Jinyu eventually starts to come to Rumi's side when she brings out the good in him. However, throughout the film, there's of course that bit where you can't tell if he's actually coming to her side, or if he's playing her. Now, granted, the movie does give a straight answer when Guima chews him out for potentially betraying him, and in the finale he sacrifices himself for her. He was too old for her anyways. No, I'm not crying. I'm not crying at all.
No.
She's not even my type.
Excuse me? I'm everyone's type.
You can't even show up on
What
time.
are you, from the 1900s?
I can see why you're still single.
What?
See? Would never work.
Here, free one. Go find yourself a better boy.
Now, granted, while the movie does give a straightforward answer as to where his allegiance lies and whether, his actual change is all for show or just, trying to manipulate Rumi, the movie does a good job at playing it a little bit. Like I said before, one of the things that they do is the fact that with his backstory, it turns out in the climax, he left out a few crucial details regarding his deal with Guima 400 years ago. And damn, if I could look like that after 400 years, sign me up. Inner voices be damned. Wait, that is how it works. Guima is defeated, sealed underground, and the Sanjo boys are mostly killed off. One of them does sneak away, but I mean, seal, sent back down, you know how it works. Rumi accepts her half-demon side, her friends also do so, and at the end of the day, there's legroom open for a sequel. So, what some of the comments I had seen about the plot is that it's pretty much generic as these types of fantasy stories go. I can't disagree. I mean, spawn of evil, secrets, friends breaking up over them, or misunderstandings, a villain turning good. These aren't new cliches, but the thing is, cliches and tropes are writers' tools. If you can pull off the execution well and make it engaging, then you can still turn out a good product. So any faults of the movie, it's really not a case of it's the cliche, it's how it's used. And let's just get one thing. You'll probably notice that when talking about the plot, there were certain characters that I left out. Like the entire marketing, for example, was all about the entire trio. And yet, admittedly, Zoe and Mira don't really get that much focus, narratively speaking, in the film. And again, this is something that the creative team admitted about in an interview, stating that whenever they tried to put in the backstory for those two, they liked it, but it didn't really flow with the story. And that is admittedly how it works. With a lot of movies and a lot of narratives, you have to tweak the story or drop certain elements to make sure that the narrative you're trying to tell flows through properly. And this movie is very much Rumi's story, and as such, the girls, while they don't necessarily have the narrative focus on their backstories or potentially any inner turmoil, they still drive the main character's turmoil, and that's something I will definitely discuss more when going on about the certain characters. I do think that the narrative for the movie is actually quite engaging, and I do like that the world that they built there, and not to mention that the music is just so good at bringing the world and the characters to life, as well as the emotional moments. And I think that's really where it actually comes together very well. So yes, it's not a complex plot. It's not very all that deep. But you know what? Everything comes together, and in the end you have a story that's still very engaging, despite its simplicity. Now, that's not to say that they don't have character arcs, but in the grand scheme of the main narrative, it's very much Rumi's story, first and foremost, not theirs. And again, that isn't a bad thing, per se. Stories need to have focus, and you can't introduce so many plot threads just to validate a character's existence. They also have to play into the main narrative, and the duo do. Zoe and Mira still play a key role in Rumi's narrative. And again, they do have their own arcs that tie into that narrative as well. Therefore, the plot is able to go as it is, because it's their character that impacts Rumi's actions, and Rumi's actions, therefore, are what make the plot flow. If there is one narrative element that I will admit does feel a bit weak, it's more so Jinu's story. Now, Jinu's story is supposed to drive the narrative as well. Since he's the main antagonist, his actions are supposed to affect Rumi's decisions and so on and so forth. And they do a good job giving him a motivation, but I do think that they could have done a little bit more there. So his entire story is that he made a deal with Guima in order to get into the royal palace, be a popular musician there. But the catch was he had to leave his family outside. So, it's like, hey, I can be rich. Okay, so long, suckers! Now, admittedly, I kind of wish they did something more with that. You made it that he would have more of a reason to feel regret, as I kind of wish that they included a scene of him maybe with the emperor at the time, going through the village and his family coming up to him, asking for help, and he just brushes them off, or maybe they fall down, and you have a parallel to an earlier scene when you originally meet Rumi, and instead of reaching out to help, he reaches back to wipe off his shoulder. I think that would have been a very good parallel to that scene, and again, it would have also really helped be a bit more mean-spirited as to why he feels all that guilt. I think it would have really hammered that in a bit more as well. But again, what we do have doesn't break the movie, so I'm not going to count it as a fault, but it is something that I do think that could have been a little bit meaner on to help hammer in the character motivation, and also again when he loses it later and temporarily turns on Rumi. Anyhow, in summary, the plot itself is simple but very effective and engaging. Granted, there's that one little element where I do wish that they decided to be a little bit meaner. I really think that would have nailed things even more. But now that we've got that out the way, how about the character? Because, you know, a movie without a strong character or without any real character to it, even with the best plot, it's not really going to stand on its own. Again, this is all the ingredients that need to come together. For the most part, I do feel that the characters are also very well written and defined. Even again, the movie is very clearly about Rumi and Junu, while Zoe and Mira are pushed to the side. They do a good job establishing the bond and the character dynamics with the other Huntrix cast as well, be it either through the actual narrative or the character interactions, or the song numbers that literally tell you what each character is about, and also helps build up later for when they have the fallout, and also gives us context for why, say, Mira or Zoe would feel betrayed, because this is the only place where they actually felt like a family. Rumi is a control workaholic, Zoe's excitable and eager to please. Mira is very standoffish because of her growing up as a black sheep. And again, like I said earlier, they all view one another as a family, even with their manager Bobby. And because of that whole very nicely knit together feeling, you can actually understand why, when they fall apart, this will actually hit them very well, because they're not just a case of just being performers, professional artists. It's not pure business. They're an actual family, and when that breaks apart, it does a good job explaining why these characters are in their darkest hour, and in the case of the other two, why they get influenced by Guima at the end, when all these characters are heading over to have their souls taken away by him. But it also shows that family bond is strong enough for them to come back and aid Rumi, especially with her finally being out open about herself. No more secrets from her and the rest of her family.
She's also a workaholic.
Celine's belief about how hunters need to appear to be perfect, I think, is also a very good echo of how the music and entertainment industry, especially with K-pop and idol culture, with their attitudes towards performers, as a lot of these people have to put up these perfect imagery. They cannot be human. They cannot have the faults of a human. There are many, many cases where people lose their mind just because a celebrity is actually dating someone. This is very much the case also. This is very bad in idol culture in Japan as well. It's also an issue in the US. We've seen a lot of people get weirdly worked up or weirdly uppity about what a celebrity is doing, and just that obsession with anything that's not deemed as perfect. And the movie does a very good job on that commentary there. And again, even though Celine is barely in the movie, you feel that because the rest of the cast echo that sentiment. But as we see, when things fall apart, and they also fall apart, that sentiment is a deeply flawed one, because we are all human. I also love how the music is absolutely used to echo the character's narrative. Like, you got dark renditions of Takedown or Golden to highlight the characters at their worst moments. Like with Takedown, there is literally a case where you have demons pretending to be Mira and Zoe, reflecting Rumi's deepest worry of actually losing them, because again, family. Especially since her mother is dead, so yeah. And what we have here is a very villainous take where she's literally being exposed to everyone as to what she is, a secret that she hid from everyone, including her closest family. And that really hurt. And then later you got a very sad rendition of the song Golden, because the idea of the song Golden, and again you can tell this from the lyrics, is that the song is essentially the idealized case of what each singer wants. It tells of where they came from, why they want to be better, and it also gives this idea of, yeah, we're now finally gonna have it. But again, to finally have what you want, you gotta, it can easily be taken away, and it's something that you have to fight for if you believe in it strong enough. And that's what the movie does as well. Gino also has a song that shows his conflicted nature, and once more, it really does tie into it and also does show that, no, he's not just playing her. He really has these conflicted emotions. And that's where it really works very well. Zoe and Mira, they're not the focus of the narrative, but their character is established, so we know why when they fall apart, why when they feel betrayed, it pushes Rumi to actually do something, because, again, all this perfection, all this hiding who she is from Celine, all it did in the end was just make her worse off, and it's time to try and get her back, even if it takes a lot of work. And in the end, it works because the trio are true to one another, and Gino is true also to who he is, because he knows deep down he's not evil. But you know what? Sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we forget to go on the right path, and we need that little extra push. Sometimes it comes with a sacrifice, but at the end of the day, that's the sacrifice you need to make. I'm not reading too deep into it, but I do want to highlight this, because a lot of the time when I see conversations about this movie, it usually starts and ends with the goofy faces and even the music. But the music, well, it's so great, and the way it connects into the narrative and the character, and I absolutely adore it. I mean, heck, the movie, the fact that there's actually a sad version of the God I Want song, it's actually kind of a bit of a brutal thing, and I love that. It's that kind of writing that makes it more poignant. More poignant. There we go. That's the word. Wow, I cannot speak. So yes, narratively speaking, this is very much Gino and Rumi's story. This is their focus, their entire thing is what gets the limelight. But the character bonds, and the way that the movie establishes the bonds, not only makes you feel for the character, but also does a very good job in servicing the plot forward. And again, because of these things, and without the other characters feeling forcefully focused on just for the sake of, well, we have to tell everyone who this is, it actually does the narrative a massive, great service. And I cannot state enough. Yes, you can go into these characters' backstories in a sequel, but just as it is for this one, we get a very good, strong narrative, and I'm very happy with. That is what makes these characters very well written, because you still feel their bond, even if narratively speaking, they technically could be written out, but I don't want them written out because they still bond that they have, which is very crucial. Because again, you could go from point A to point B, but you're missing out a lot of the context behind the journey there. And that's why I do say K-pop is very good with the characters that it establishes. Plus also the fact that they have a very chaotic comedic side actually adds a lot of life to it. I mean, heck, Gino is able to laugh like this while also being very intimidating, or actually maintain his villainous presence in the same film. Heck, even in scenes that are very close to one another. That's it in terms of character. There's one part where the movie does admittedly falter, and that is the rest of Saja boys. Now, granted, the movie already has to juggle quite a very sizable cast. You've got at least 8 people there, with the Saja group having about 6 members on its own. Actually, let me just double check that quickly. Oh, it's only 5. Wow, I can't count for jack. But the problem here is that the only one that has any real character to him is Gino. The others are, if I'm in all honest, glorified henchmen. You could cut them out, and I don't think you'd really miss anything. Outside of maybe a few gags, but yeah. They're very much one note. They have no real personality. And yeah, that is actually a very weak thing. I actually would have preferred had the Saja boys been somewhat of a mirror of the Huntrix. A very basic, obvious go-to trope for these kind of stories, but you know what? If it works, it can work. And it beats the alternative of just not having any character whatsoever. Maybe I could just joke about maybe I could say that they're actually commentary on how many pop stars have absolutely zero personality. That doesn't fly here. So, to wrap it up when it comes to characters, outside of the Saja boys being cardboard cutouts, I'd say the movie has a very strong cast that's very charismatic and helps complement the narrative as well as the music that the movie has. Which, again, I cannot reiterate, gosh, this music is so good! Yeah, the Saja boys are pretty expendable. I mean, heck, no wonder no one bats an eye when they suddenly disappear. one-hit wonder hack frauds. But the song is still catchy, though. So, all we're really missing now is to talk about the animation and the music. Let me just repeat what I've been saying the whole time. The music is very good and does a very damn good job of conveying the story of the film, as well as the characters and their desires. Now, for the animation, look, we saw the trailer. We all knew that it was going to be very well animated. And you know what? I'm glad that when I see the full film, it actually does that. So one of the Sony strong points has been that whenever they use stylized CG, each of their films has its own style to it. And with K-pop Demon Hunters, you can definitely feel in many places that Korean mythology vibe to it, especially from the visuals alone. Since some of these effects and just some of the artwork here, I know I'm saying artwork, but it feels like artwork because it feels very much like the kind of thing you'd see on a mural depicting some sort of myth. And you know what? It's such a visual delight. And on top of that, it just, I cannot state enough. And also with the expressions, you could tell that the movie just has a lot of fun with going through these over-the-top expressions. And I can see why they've garnered a lot of traction. Especially since when you compare it to the designs of the characters, in the past, these kind of designs would be characters that wouldn't really emote much because the idea is that, well, the women have to be pretty. They can't really do goofy things. Yeah, this movie very much pushes that out the way. I mean, heck, they even have a gag about it with the duo literally powdering their faces right after being bloodied up.
Girls, hi, Bobby.
Damn, give me some of that. I could use some of that powder. The animation, effects-wise, is also what allows for the main villain Guima to actually feel like he has some kind of presence when you look at him. Because writing-wise, well, you notice I didn't really talk about him in the character section, because the way he's written is that he's very much an evil force of nature. There's really no depth to him whatsoever. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with someone being irredeemably evil. It's all about the presence. And the animation and the visuals really give him a very good presence, as well as his voice. So again, the movie does a lot of things that you could view as very simple, but it does it in such a way that these simple ideas are still very engaging to the audience, or at least to me at the very least, and it has me actually quite falling for it like a real sucker. All in all, K-pop Demon Hunters is another smash hit for Sony Pictures Entertainment. While the narrative may be simple, it is still very engaging thanks to the wonderful charismatic characters, the good use of music, the gorgeous animations, and also good writing that knows when to balance the more goofy stuff with the more character-driven dramatic elements, and I can't find myself recommending it enough. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm a little soda pop. I got a few songs to get out of my head. Oh, it's so catchy!
I am so glad that video is done. I actually quite enjoyed experimenting a little bit with this one on the editing side of things, and also wanted to say thank you very much for watching this one. I'm actually surprised at how well that Phineas and Ferb video did, and if you'd like to support me, feel free to donate to my Patreon below, and also my coffee too. I'm trying to get things started. Hopefully that picks up alongside the channel, and then we'll go from there. There are some extra notes I actually want to talk about quickly, that with information that only came out while the editing process was happening for the movie. First and foremost, it turned out that Netflix actually bought the entire IP from Sony Pictures Animation. So Sony only getting 20 million profit from it. Admittedly, I do think that was a bit of a dumb move business-wise, but I'm sure they had their reasons. Doesn't mean I have to necessarily agree with them. I'm not sure yet what I'll do next on the video thing, but I've got a few ideas brewing. Fingers crossed that this is going to work out. And once more, feel free to subscribe, like, share around. And also, if you'd like to take a look at my voiceover work as well, feel free to take a peek at the shorts on the channel. The one where I edited John Lovett's performance did surprisingly really well. And I don't know what to make of that, outside of being very grateful. But again, thanks very much. See you next time.